We got an email via the form submission on our website just a couple of days ago, and I did want to read this. This is from Cordell at MeatData on Twitter. And the subject is Cars 2 on acid. Our grim findings. And the message reads as follows. Hello, Alice, Abby, and Devon. Love you and your works all. I wanted to share with fellow travelers that I was last night in a party of 4 who took a courageous 250 microgram dose of LSD before watching Cars 2. As a contrast, we've previously seen The Color Out of Space on acid, and that comes by its horror honestly. Creates dread without threat and is not spiritually insidious. Cars 2 was full of genuine horrors that were relentlessly and heartlessly light with, and it did not examine. Its characters and predicaments are all the devisings of an abject gaze. Our eyes scrutinized the whole of that intricate work, is audaciously fucked and evil, debasing, dishonoring to the soul, a vividly alluring, brutal world of grotesquerie. Children got to see this. We otherwise had a delightful night, including Paddington 2, food, and some nice wildlife encounters. So we're radicalized, but not totally hollowed out. Thanks again.
Using drugs or steroids?
Welcome to Kill James Bond, the podcast where we talk about horse steroids and watching Cars 2 doing a large amount of psychoactive drugs. I am Alice Caldwell-Kelly. Joining me, Devon, Abigail Thorne, and special guest,
hello,
TV's Nate Bethay.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. You only produce all the episodes of our podcast and are friends with us.
Nate came down and knocked on the door, and now he's like sitting at the back of the podcast with a clipboard to make sure that we're doing it right.
Yeah, just don't. You're our podcast Ofsted inspector. Just don't pay any notice. You're just here to make sure.
Do try to use the sample about a man comes 007.
Man comes.
Man comes. Fuck, you're gonna have to make me scroll all the way.
Any cost, any. Bond must die.
No, that's the one above it.
A man comes.
There we go.
There it is.
Perfect.
There he is.
We watched A View to a Kill, the last Roger Moore movie.
We sure did.
Because unlike that old bastard Connery, Moore doesn't come back. He's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm out. I'm stopping it.
Yeah, he pulls the plug after,
and then he did die,
after this one. And so this is like the last hurrah of Bond, mid-80s Bond, no less. And we begin in Russia, ? Because Roger Moore, I think there's something in his contract to say that he got paid by the skiing scene.
Yeah.
Each one of these, he has a different ridiculous skiing outfit, and this one is like an extremely broad fur-collared white ensemble.
It's amazing. I love it.
Genuinely, the Bond series, especially the Roger Moore ones, is just a series of movies primarily about skiing.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like a winter
the more
sports
boats earlier
series.
on, but now it's all ski.
We open on a visage of skiing communistically, like just running around Soviet soldiers skiing in like a really like henchman-y way, sort of like if you were watching Captain Planet, like what the monster who wants to destroy the environment's guys would be doing. They'd just be running around really busily, but these guys are skiing.
An adorable communist little snowmobile.
I was to say communist snowmobile. My notes were where to cop.
Right? It's this darling little like bright orange snowmobile with a big red star on it, and it's like, communism. But as we see Bond, he has, I guess, invented a new nonce detector, because he is holding a little beeping gadget. We're not sure if it's meant to be like a Geiger counter or some kind of tracker or whatever, but he traces something using this gadget's beeps to another dead 00 agent who has been buried under the ice.
Sadly, this time he's not dressed as a clown.
I mean, all 00 agents are clowns, but this one is dressed like James Bond is. And he takes out a little locket that the guy had, in which he had a little picture of his family, tosses the picture of his family, which I quite like, and there's a little microchip in there, which is the reason why he is there. But of course, he does, get noticed immediately and then shot at by the entire Soviet army.
Yes,
this is correct.
It's a pretty good ski chase.
It is. It's like, I mean, my notes here basically say it's great when there's somebody who is not Roger Moore doing the stunts. Everybody else, they're really having to film around Roger Moore here. He's not looking good, is the thing.
One of his skis gets broken, so he skis on one leg, and then at one point it seems he transitions to some other object to ski on that I just wrote nonce snowboard in my notes.
So there's a jarring clash of tones where he steals a snowmobile that is then blown up, but he then steals part of the wreckage of the snowmobile and snowboards on it. And Dev and I, we watched this together. We cheered when he did this.
Yeah, my notes just say,
because they stopped playing the Beach Boys.
This is unaltered. The exact sequence. It's very loud, so I do apologize for that. But this is the exact sequence of sound effects that you hear when he takes the snowboard off of the thing, hits a couple of guys with it, and snowboards away.
Absolutely unintelligible.
Do not adjust your James Bond film. This is an intentional.
Now the thing is, I laughed and I cheered when this happened, and it would have been great to go from that into the title sequence. But they do Beach Boys for about 30 seconds, and then ka-chunk, the movie changes gears, and we go back to the stuff being blown up, and it's like danger scene again. It's really, really odd. It's fucking class.
I mean, my thesis for this whole movie is that this is a Bond film where he continually just starts showing up in different movies.
Yeah, pretty much.
He just keeps going through other things that were being filmed at the time, I guess. So, this is an early incarnation of that. It's just a very brief surf movie moment, but
Yeah.
And then he goes back to things being like genuine peril.
Yeah, he shoots down a helicopter with a flare, and then as he's being closed in on all sides, a little hatch opens up on an iceberg, and it has a Union Jack on the underside of the hatch. And I repeated my "Oh, you daft old bastard" moment. It's just okay, really cool, yeah, fine. It's a little submarine. It's got a sexy lady in it because, of course, it does.
Goes in there. There's a sexy lady. He does some sort of various things, and then fucking obliterates the pussy clock record.
Yep. Previous record from Moonraker was 155. This time, my man Roger Moore, 58 years old, seals the deal in 52 seconds.
Less than
this
1
woman is not
minute.
A character. She is here to be like, I have completed my task. Sex reward, please. And great.
We don't see her again. We don't know who she is.
But Bond has fully done that Danish submarine murder shit on her.
Oh yeah.
No, very true.
It's a sleeper joke. Google it. And then we go straight to Duran Duran.
Very true.
Yes.
Banger.
So I love this song. My wife and I were listening to it the other day, and she made the point that if it weren't for the sample sort of sounding classic James Bond noises, horn noises, stabs or whatever, it's just a Duran Duran song. It has no bearing on any other of the James Bond sort of sound canon, if you will. I don't know if you've ever seen the music video, but it recreates some of the scenes of the film, except that it's very low budget green screen with the band members, Duran Duran, when it was a 5-piece band, being chased around by what you might describe as a primitive UAV, which is just a VHS camcorder flying around following them. And
yes,
it's so fucking good and just so of its time in a way. When they were the biggest band in the world, I mean, or at least they're certainly the biggest band in England at the time, and so it's very funny that in sort of to make James Bond relevant, and we'll get into this later, as we discuss the plot. It feels like they decided to make. What if Duran Duran wrote a song for what if James Bond did Police Academy / The Blues Brothers?
And
that I think is very telling of the time in which it was made.
The song is a little bit more James Bond related than some of the previous ones. Like, at least this says "A View to a Kill" more than once and as part of the chorus. Like, "The Spy Who Loved Me" is a throwaway line.
This is the least the lyrics have had to do with James Bond for a while. Which is, I think it's a good thing, given that the brief that like Shirley Bassey got was basically you have to say Goldfinger and that he loves gold as many times as possible.
She fucking did that, though.
Yeah, that is one thing. You received
gold.
that information from the song Goldfinger.
She also did a great job with the title sequence of Cats and Dogs too, but that's behind the paywall, listeners.
Yeah, this is why you should pay us to find out about Cats and Dogs too.
Yeah, which we'll be playing in its entirety in that episode.
Yeah, so, all right, first scene. Bond goes to...
This is the exact moment I found out that Grace Jones was in this movie, was when her name appeared in that title sequence, and I was like, holy shit,
yes.
Let's go.
Yes, for reasons I will get into later, I will argue this is the most lesbian Bond movie. But Bond goes into the office, and Moneypenny is wearing a weird, like, sort of like formal dress. He's like, that's appropriate for the office. But the reason why is because they're going on like a works outing.
Yeah, they are.
They're going to the Royal Ascot. They're all dressed in morning dress.
Q is there dressed in like the sort of like the grey trousers and the frock coat and everything, and they're just like the office is going out to watch the races, and I found this so charming. Yeah, it's daft, and like he tries to flirt a bit with Moneypenny. And by this point, like, Roger Moore is now so old, you get the sense that he wouldn't even know what to do. So the effect is a bit like Kenneth Williams. It's like,
you got to realize, for me, not knowing the gradations of formal dress, because I'm not from this country, they're all in suits. And then after they have the exchange where he talks about the microchip, he says, "Oh, 007, you have 35 minutes to get properly dressed." And I'm sort of like, but he's in a suit. What the fuck do you mean? And then the next scene is them in like top hats and shit. And I'm just like, does this exist? Is this real? Is England a real country?
Yes, yes, it is. So there is a level above black tie in the UK called morning dress, which is for weddings and Royal Ascot.
Between that and white
tie.
It features a whole bunch of extra things that no one's ever heard of before outside of nonsense circles, like cummerbunds. Tailcoat.
These are all words that we either encounter when we're forced to read Charles Dickens in school, or like when we're making fun of something that sounds British. That's like a cummerbund is the kind of word we would use. So it was imagine.
Yeah, no, this is a real thing. I've been to weddings with morning dress before.
So the actual like briefing scene is mercifully short. Q has a little robot dog. He has a Sony Aibo.
He's invented K9 from Doctor Who.
Yeah. And
you get a very perfect... Oh, go on, you first.
He also has a microchip comparator to compare microchips.
He does indeed.
CompareTheMicrochip.com.
Yeah. Why don't you use the identigraph? And so he puts the microchip that Bond recovered into the microchip comparator to show that it's the same as another microchip, which is resistant to EMP.
You get a beautiful moment where it's the classic, so 007, what's the deal with this movie?
007, explain the plot of GoldenEye to us. And so Bond is like, yeah, no, if they set off a nuke in space, it would fry every electronic piece of equipment with a circuit in it, and that's why a British company developed this thing. For some reason, he says like his example of the thing that would be destroyed in an EMP is
the modern toaster.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine a world.
Oh no, there's been a nuclear attack. Now I can't get toast.
Imagine a world. In order
to secure our modern toasters against nuclear attacks.
This came out 2 years after Threads.
Yeah.
This is the biggest threat against breakfast.
In order to protect our toasters, a British company has developed an EMP-proof circuit so you can get some toast while you're dying of radiation poisoning.
Absolutely.
However, that company was sold to another company, an Anglo-French corporation called Zorin Industries. And since then, it has been stolen, and that's how the Russians came by it. And so the plot, once again, is 007, this company, named after a man, we suspect it's evil. Go and talk to that man.
Oh my god, you're right. It's just
the same
Moonraker.
again, yeah.
It's Moonraker. It's Moonraker.
Which requires him to go to a chalet and to propose as someone who is looking to buy a racehorse.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Maybe even the same chalet. But did you catch what they say about Zorin? Because Bond says, well, it could be Zorin, you know?
Yeah, no, I wrote this down.
This guy, you know, he used to be from East Germany, and then the Minister for Defense says, oh no, Zorin is beyond reproach. He is a, quote, staunch anti-communist with influential friends in government. That's how you know he's good, is because he hates communists.
That moment is when I knew that he was going to be revealed to be a communist.
he's been vouched for by our friend Mr. Philby, who says he's very reliable.
So Q, M, Moneypenny, and Bond all go to the races together. They go to Royal Ascot together.
It's quite nice.
It's quite nice. Like, we see Zorin's horse come from nowhere in the last furlong to win.
Yeah, his horse is called Pegasus, which is the flat out most unrealistic thing in a Bond film so far.
Yeah.
Is being able to get that name for a fucking racehorse.
What's also really funny to me at this point is like Bond and M's surveillance technique is like, as you would imagine British spying, is to stand wearing morning dress in the like members enclosure at Royal Ascot and turn 180 degrees with binoculars and turn those binoculars on Max Zorin, who is a surprisingly young, twink-looking Walken. It's Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken with bleach blonde hair, looking young as hell. And good, quite good in this. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh, honestly.
He's also with him is Grace Jones, Mayday, his girlfriend, question mark. And the other unrealistic thing about this scene is you have Grace Jones standing in a crowd and none of them are looking at Grace Jones. Everybody is just like, oh, that's boring. You know, not interested in what's going on here. And so M sort of briefs Bond on Zorin. He's like, no, he came from East Germany in the 60s. He speaks 5 languages with no accent. He's like a renowned
second East German defector who's shown to be a KGB guy in this fucking series of movies.
Captain of industry.
The first was, what was his name from
Kriegler.
Kriegler, that's the one.
Yeah.
Kriegler.
So, of course,
bit of ideology.
Yeah. Speaking of ideology, we're not sure if this guy's evil or not, but the way we kind of like discern is we kind of think maybe he's been defiling the sanctity of Royal Ascot by cheating at racing horses.
At this point, I was like, microchips? Where's the
No, this is a horse-based plot from now on.
007.
The most evil British crime of all.
The worst thing we can imagine happening. A horse. And that's it. That's the end of a sentence.
Yeah,
a horse has been tampered with at the Royal Ascot, which is a crime above capital punishment.
I mean, that is the kind of thing that you would expect MI6 to investigate in real life.
100%. So they're like, well, we don't know if he's evil or not. We do know a French pervert you can have a chat with.
They keep changing the name of this character because it's like badly dubbed. And what they end up is settling on calling him is Achille Aubergine. Yes.
Fucking Aubergine. Fantastic.
Detective Aubergine of the Sauté.
Yes. How do we set up that we're in France?
Devon-ass name.
Really quickly. Where's in France?
Oh, baby. It's one of the major things that's in France.
One of the things is the Eiffel Tower.
Racism? That was my second guess.
Yeah.
You have to imagine that even in like the 80s, the restaurant in the Eiffel Tower was some tourist trap shit. And yet Bond is like, yeah, and I'll just take him to the most luxurious place. I'll meet this guy in the most luxurious place in Paris, the Eiffel Tower.
No.
Yes, and there's a weird cabaret show with butterflies that are being operated by somebody with a fishing pole. And then, but shocker, the masked person operating the fishing pole butterflies gets punched out by another masked person, Grace Jones in ninja costume / burqa, however you want to interpret it,
Incredible.
Who takes over the fishing line to deliver a fatal poison dose to the French pervert, right after he's given Bond the crucial information, thus precipitating a chase on the
perfect assassination weapon.
Yeah, absolutely.
A butterfly on a fishing line that's got a little hook on it.
47.
Him with it.
Now make your way to an exit. And so she climbs up the Eiffel Tower, pursued by Bond, and she pulls what was, I guess, his trick on him, because she just parachutes off the Eiffel Tower.
She base jumps off it, which I think you can do.
Yeah.
But isn't like the Eiffel Tower like just about the minimum height that you can base jump from?
They actually did it for this, and the thing is, they wanted to do 2 shoots, so 2 jumps, so they got all of the footage they needed. And the first one came off so well that they got everything they needed from it. And a couple of their stuntmen who did not get to jump were so pissed at being excluded that they illegally jumped from the Eiffel Tower and got fired because the legal costs from this totally outweighed the tax benefits from like filming it in France.
Dudes rock. Hate to say it.
Les hommes, they rock.
So Bond like jumps on an elevator and rides that elevator to the street, and then throws a guy out of his taxi in order to give chase. And this guy
he runs up to a taxi and he goes like, follow that parachute, and the guy, who is a Frenchman, essentially goes the equivalent of, I'm on fucking break. So he just tosses him straight out
so
the
he
car.
Throws him out the car, knocks him into some souvenir vendors, steals the car, and then the guy basically runs after him on foot, watching him smash things, saying, "Oh, my car," like 5 times.
Oh my god!
Oh.
My notes say, "Where is J.W. Pepper? Why was he not in the back of that taxi being like, I'm on holiday in France?
Oh, Macau."
Yeah.
So, and he really does say this like way too long. They hold that for a while. I only clipped part of it.
He says it numerous times. And then Bond, as he's chasing the parachute, is crashing through traffic, going the wrong way, in and around the Eiffel Tower and that part of Paris. He decapitates the car, hitting some kind of barrier. He gets hit by things that split the car in half. By the end, he is driving half of a car where he's practically sitting on the street driving just with the front wheels. My notes say, is this a metaphor for impotence? And he is able to crash off a bridge to jump onto the same barge, boat, pleasure craft that Mayday has gotten onto. She's landed on, whereas she has landed.
He comes through the glass ceiling of this boat, lands in a wedding cake, and the way that they have filmed this, I have a still which I posted in the group chat of whatever Bond-shaped object they flung down onto this wedding cake.
Oh, it's fully just a fucking model easily.
Yeah, it's also really funny because then he gets detained by French chefs with cleavers. Like, I don't know if you caught that, but they like detain him to arrest him, and they're all holding various sharp kitchen implements, and then he has to get bailed out from the gendarme, basically.
Yeah.
Sort of goes back to that line from Man with the Golden Gun where M's listing the people that would want to have Bond killed, and he mentions
outraged chefs.
Here they are.
So Grace Jones escapes, and we see her and Zorin in the speedboat together, making good their escape. These two just love each other's company, which is just fantastic to see.
They're vibing, it's good.
Yeah, it's great. Genuinely, I'll come back to this, but I think the vibe that Zorin and Mayday have is when a European couple on vacation ask if you want to swing, and you're like, shit, maybe.
Yes. They wouldn't even have the time to finish the second word in the sentence.
So M bails Bond out of France jail. And
yes,
we also see, I guess we had met him earlier, but it is not really important then. We also see Patrick Macnee, who is like MI6's horse agent.
Yep.
His name is Godfrey Tibbett.
009 brackets horses.
Tibbett.
So
he puts in a solid application for the Goodnight Cross in this movie.
He really does. He's like, I think I can get Bond into Zorin's chateau, last occupied by a guy named Hugo Drax, but that's not important. He's holding like a horse stud event, like an auction. and we can get Bond in under false pretenses. And the other thing is that Sir Godfrey is much posher than Bond, and so the joke that you expect is like, oh, Bond's going to be his chauffeur, but instead they swap roles, and now Sir Godfrey Tibbett is driving Bond around. Bond is now James St. John Smythe.
Horrible.
Oh my God. I just realized something. This is very funny, and I wonder if this was a subconscious thing or if he did this deliberately. But when we did the Trash Future episode about sensitive tycoons, like a fake April Fool's Day podcast about tech influencers, Milo's extremely posh character was named James St. John Smith. And so I'm kind of wondering if that was just like, that's the poshest name that a human being can have. So he just defaulted to that, or if it was deliberately a reference to the Bond film.
Bond really plays up to this too. Cool. And there's a bit later on where, because like he kind of abuses Tibbett as like his valet.
Milo's in the room, and he said that actually no, it was just him riffing. So basically, it's the poshest name that can exist.
It is just the poshest name anyone could imagine.
St. John is like a very posh.
What's really funny is that like later on, in between breaks of being like berated for not carrying his luggage well enough and stuff, Sir Godfrey breaks cover, and he's like, "Oh, do you have to like be so mean when we're not undercover?" And Bond goes, "No, the best cover becomes second nature." And I actually really like this idea that, like, of course, Bond's best covers are being the most reprehensible cunts in the world.
100%. I wrote this down. He doesn't know shit about horses, but he can absolutely be rude to the hell.
Yes. So they go to the chateau that, like, again, it may as well just be the one that Drax had in Moonraker, in like a Rolls Royce Silver Ghost, which is very nice.
So someone he asks where the main stables are, and he gets pointed to a building that if you had asked me, I would have said that's a mansion. But that's the stables. I was like, oh fuck, I don't know shit.
Yeah,
we meet a guy called Scar.
The difference between this chateau and Drax's is that all of Zorin's employees can read.
Fantastic.
Now, have I mentioned about me that I'm a lesbian?
I've got some memory of this.
Because, like, typically at this point, in the sort of general pattern of this movie, this is where you would hire, like, a big, faintly foreign guy. What Zorin has done instead is to hire two absolute smoke shows in riding gear.
Yep.
Welcome, sir. I'm
Jenny Flex.
Of course you are.
Jenny Flex.
Jenny Flex and Pan Ho.
Genuflect, that's for joke.
They're the sort of, I feel quietly the sort of lesbian Winton kid of this movie, because they're always together, and they're just thriving. You know, it's sweet. But for the moment,
we meet a guy called Scarpine, who is like
head of security,
and he's sick of Bond's shit within about a minute.
Yep.
Because 007, he doesn't know shit about horses, but he's undercover at a stud farm, and he's just like pointing at the horses, being like, that's a big horse right there, isn't it, pal? And Scarpion's like, yes, sir. I see that one's got 4 legs, hey? Fantastic.
Some powerful hooves on that beast.
Bloody hell.
So that we get a few more scenes of like Bond being a cunt to Tibbett and like making him seem put upon, making him carry the bags and stuff. And then while Bond goes and schmoozes at Zorin's party, Tibbett breaks into the stables and sees that a horse seems to have like disappeared within its stall in between him seeing it and him going in. And he sees this sort of like creepy looking vet guy, and it's like, huh, that's interesting.
Bond also, he discovers that Zorin has written a check to a sexy blonde lady for $5 million. Yeah. We don't find out what that's for yet, but we see that he's like paying somebody off.
Something quite clever because it keeps us pretty well distant from Zorin at this point. And like, as opposed to Moonraker, to which at this point this is the same movie. The thing with Moonraker is Drax is like, Mr. Bond, this is my entire weird deal. Can I press you to a cucumber sandwich? Whereas at this point, we mostly like see Zorin like going in and out of rooms and schmoozing and shit, and it's
We haven't seen him commit any crimes. We don't even know he's actually responsible for the microchip thing. That's just like a hunch.
And with Walken too, he's quite slick about it. The effect is quite professional.
Well, there's when he first talks to him, and he makes the joke about riding and sport and stuff like that, and he says, "Oh, do you fly fishing?" And it's sort of like a really ham-fisted reference to the murder of the French pervert. Walken manages to pull it off. That instead of being like, "Oh, you found my scheme," he just basically gives him this look like, yeah, fuck you, weirdo. I don't want to deal with you. And then he's like, oh, I'm sure the ladies will keep you entertained, and just basically tells him to fuck off. And I was like, yeah, that reminded me in a way of, I don't know if you've seen the Mission Impossible movie where Philip Seymour Hoffman plays the villain incredibly well, but he has this just like murderous disdain for people, and it comes through like, it's instead of being like over the top circus clown kind of villain, it's just like a guy who clearly like he the people that he doesn't need things from, he's like, I could fucking kill you and feel nothing. And I feel like to a degree, Christopher Walken kind of pulls that off. Like he has that disdain of sort of like I'm a rich twat and I can do what I want.
Yeah. So Bond tries to like sidle up and put the nonce moves on the woman that he saw getting the check, who he only knows from the check sign is S. Sutton. I did get a drop of him saying, I'm English, which is his like opening line.
Yeah, and she goes like, really? I couldn't tell. And he's like, oh, couldn't you?
And of course, Zorin immediately has Mayday separate them. And Mayday is like, Bond's line is like, no, I'm disappointed. I thought I was going to be having sex tonight. And Mayday's like, yeah, no, don't worry about it. You'll do fine. To which Bond tries his luck with Grace Jones.
Yeah, the threat that she pulls is that I will take care of you personally later.
And Bond is like, I'll take care of the end of my penis. Interesting.
Would have sex with me. Which is
again,
a bold strap,
Jones.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But this whole sequence is genuinely James Bond walking around a posho function being the most a spy anyone has ever been. Like everything he does, he is so not undercover. It's genuinely incredible.
Yeah. So
everyone is onto him.
Mm-hmm. He sneaks out of his room, which is of course being bugged, but they've set up like a tape recorder. And having donned what I can only describe as a sneaking tracksuit, he and Tibbet find an underground horse laboratory.
Yeah, they do.
Yes, they do.
For horse steroids.
They go into the underground laboratory and like there is just the shadow of a horse in a dark lab, and it genuinely is a little bit terrifying. They turn on the light and it's just a nice horse, and Godfrey Tibbet is generally just like patting the horse, which I think is quite nice.
Yeah, it's quite sweet. But they do confirm that Zorin is cheating at the Royal Ascot.
Worst crime.
Remote control horse.
He has implanted a microchip in the horse, and then when he presses a button on his little like a morning dress cane, it like injects the horse with
horse steroids
and makes it go faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You can also download up to 28,000 songs onto your horse.
They're of course terrible at sneaking, and they get immediately discovered by a couple of guards.
Two guys arrive.
They beat those two guys up, and like Bond throws them into a like packing machine.
Because apparently they've got all the microchips. So yeah, they pack them into a case of microchips because the horse farm also has the microchip factory somehow.
Yes. Yeah. Also, my favorite way
next door,
to receive microchips, just loose in a wooden box.
They hadn't fucking invented Lean Six Sigma yet, all right? In the 80s, you could have a microchip factory in your horse farm, and people would be like, yeah, that's a great business.
Yeah. I'm at the microchip factory. I'm at the stud farm. I'm at the combination.
I'm at the combination microchip factory in the horse farm. Great minds. We're in podcast sync.
This is intercut with a scene that was made for me of Zorin and Mayday having a fucking fight.
It's a sex fight. This is them doing like foreplay, right? Like this is their foreplay. Is like them kicking the absolute shit out of each other in like is it a karate or like a judo?
Just like a judo ring. Yeah. Basically, they fight in the sex dojo, and then he starts making the moves on her, and they start kissing, but then he's interrupted by security.
Yes, I told you never to call me here, and then they tell him, "Oh, we found 2 guards unconscious." And fair play to Zorin. He's immediately like, "All right, I will postpone my sex plans." And also, I immediately know that this most obvious spy-looking motherfucker of the party is clearly it is this man. Let's go to his room and see what's going on. And so
he goes personally, which I appreciate. I appreciate a hands-on villain.
Yeah. He and Mayday go to St. John Smythe's room, find he's not there, and are like, aha, I knew it. And at this point, Mayday puts it together that it's like, oh, wait a second, that's the guy from the Eiffel Tower as well. That's fucking... She doesn't remember that he's James Bond, but he's like an agent. And then as she is going to her own bedroom, there's James Bond in there.
This is genuinely incredible.
Completely presented to be nude, or at least in a state of undress, shirtless in her bed.
In the bed.
Yes.
And he goes, "Oh, I thought you said you were going to take care of me personally."
And we get my favorite little exchange of this movie, which is
genuinely
she glances, she looks back over to Zorin, and Zorin genuinely gives her a shit, maybe.
Just like, yeah, all right then. Fucking go on.
I love their relationship so much. I'm like, yeah, all right, go on. It's just like,
yeah, he like shrugs and shakes his head. He's like, oh, like, yeah, go for it. Like,
why not?
Right.
Well, then she just leaps right into it and doesn't say anything. And Bond is just like, I see you're a woman of few words. And she says, what's the line? Nothing to talk about or nothing to discuss. Yeah. And then, so
Grace Jones blows his back walls out.
Initiates
James
sex.
Bond about to experience getting top for probably the first time.
That's right.
Best of luck, mate. So the next morning, Bond, in the afterglow of having had sex with Grace fucking Jones, goes to see Zorin. And Zorin, we should put at the top here. This movie is a computer's movie.
Yeah,
100%. Oh yeah, 100%.
This is the point where they were like, holy shit, have you ever heard of Apple Macintosh?
I find a computer indispensable.
You can all do everything you want on this piece of equipment.
So basically, through hidden cameras, Zorin takes pictures of Bond head on and in profile and submits it to the computer. And the computer
gets identigraphed.
Yeah, and the computer comes back. Basically,
this MF getting identigraphed.
The picture like slowly degrades into pixels as it's being uploaded, like it's being turned into like a 16-color Sierra game.
Hell yeah!
And then it comes back with his name, his occupation, and then
highly dangerous, certainly armed. License to
list
kill.
of non-crimes.
A big flash across the screen that says "License to Kill." It's incredible. It's
it's really good because the entire way through, Zorin is like talking to Bond, like, "Yeah, we're just trying to find a horse that'll suit your needs," and it's coming like flashing up on the screen. Carries a gun, and he's going, "Ooh!" every time. Like he's got such like a "ooh, damn."
Yeah,
sort of expression.
I love Zorin's vibe so much. So of course he's like, I have to kill this man. But I have to kill him in like my favorite weird way. So like for Drax, that would be hunting. For Zorin, it's horse racing. So Bond sends Sir Godfrey Tibbett into town in the Rolls Royce to go and like get a message to M. And he immediately falls for the most obvious trick in the book, right? The gates don't open. Mayday is there. He gets out to open the gates. Mayday opens the gates for him. And when he looks back, she's not there. And I wrote down in all caps, backseat, idiot.
100% is exactly what Abby said to me at the time. Just turned straight. I was like, backseat.
She's in the backseat.
The thing is, so Godfrey invents this excuse like, oh, I've got to go and have the car washed in town. I'll be back. So that he can leave the compound. But then he actually goes to the car wash first rather than
he just legitimately goes to the car.
He like forgot it was a lie.
Yeah.
So he gets Sagot in the fucking car wash. Grace Jones
followed there by the two lesbians also, and again, incredible look.
I was gonna say, like, they just basically stare him down with like lesbian death glare. I thought, like, when I first saw the scene, I didn't realize that they were like, oh, we're gonna get him after. I thought like they had done something to make this like a murder car wash, and so when the rollers descended on the car, that like it was gonna explode or something, because you knew, like, if you get stared at that menacingly by the two lesbian henchwomen, like, you are going to die. Like, there is no escape.
Yeah. No, you get a genuinely quite, like, we're starting to learn cinematography, which is fantastic. You get a genuinely quite good thing where the car is framed
As
perfectly.
a kid, it made me scared of going through car washes.
by the car wash rollers, and just as the last one comes down, last second, you see Mayday arrive from the back seat and just grab him. And then the whole frame gets eclipsed by the car wash roller coming down. And it was genuinely very well done.
Great. So
I'm
Zorin...
sorry, I disagree. I thought that shot was absolutely fucking hilarious. Because it looks like he's being killed. Looks like he's being killed by the honey monster because there's just these like big, these like big fluffy things, and I'm like, this is not scary. This is just a car wash.
Fine. My second point is that the windscreen is a little bit too covered in water to actually see.
Because I genuinely, I got to be honest with you, I thought I was paying attention, but I didn't catch that there was the scuffle from the back. I just saw the rollers descending and the scary music, and I was like, well, you just don't come out of the lesbian car wash alive, I guess.
No.
I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt here.
I wish Grace Jones would strangle me to death. Anyway.
You'd have to fucking get in line.
Do you have the address of the lesbian car wash?
We have to focus. at this point. So Bond has to
we got to get through this shit.
Okay. So Zorin puts Bond on like a dangerous horse named Inferno, which has the horse steroids implanted in him already.
It's got all his music on it.
Yeah. And he challenges him. He's like, if you can stay on this like steeple chase
never gonna get a horse called Inferno
with me and a bunch of other like rough looking dudes, then you can I will give you my like best horse.
Genuinely the most henchman looking ass.
Can I throw this is very funny to me because like basically he was like, all right, they're going to ride with you for company or whatever. And they immediately start doing henchman shit. And I thought it was very funny because it was like the plan was so watertight that basically not only did he have like the Buzkashi horseman to fucking knock the shit out of James Bond, but then like he also has these traps built in that he's activating with remote controls that just keep fucking up his henchmen and not Bond. And I just remember thinking like, man, this must be the worst job if you work for fucking Zorin. You have to be the horse guy who crashes on everything. And invariably, none of the henchmen attacks work. Bond fights them off. But in my notes, I wrote, on my signal, unleash horse, because he pushes the button and the horse goes nuts. And they open up the gate for the horse to go nuts. And it goes running through the woods with Bond on it. And then they arrive at the car. But unfortunately, Sir Godfrey has been snatched up. And it's Grace Jones behind the wheel with a gun.
Yes.
You get the most genuinely owned Bond has ever been by a villain since Dr. No.
The thing about Zorin is that he's a pimp, right? And I want to clarify that with this line, which is one of my favorites in the movie.
Killing Tibbet was a mistake. I'm about to make the same mistake twice.
Fucking cooked his ass.
And then Bond says, if you kill me, then my department will send someone else. And Zorin says, if you're the best they have, it's more likely they'll try to cover up your embarrassing incompetence.
It's incredible. Genuinely an incredible line.
Oh, it just absolutely destroys
They put Bond in the back of the car, and there is the most classic Roger Moore oof when he gets hit in the back of the head.
Oh, it's good. Oh. Yeah, there he is.
I kept feeling like various noises that Roger Moore makes in this come very close to the homophobic noise. There's a number of sounds that you're just like, those are added in so that the viewer knows it's Roger Moore making them, like as Bond character. But like, there's just this air of ooh about him that because I haven't watched it. I mean, I think I saw a couple of these as a kid. I wasn't prepared for it. I've just been listening to you all discuss these episodes and kind of riff on them and some of the sound bites, but like, I wasn't prepared for just how like everything about him is.
Genuinely,
Williams.
It's wild.
I haven't been pulling any punches about this fucking guy.
so they put the two of them in the back of the car. There's a shot of Tibbet and Bond unconscious or dead in the back of the car that is very much like smoking on that shit that killed James Bond. They push the Rolls Royce into a lake.
Oh, wasted a car.
What can you do? And then in celebration, because they're kind of like both Zorin and Mayday are tremendously horny because of this.
Yes.
And so like the first thing that he does after pushing the car into the lake is to smell her glove again, him. And so as Bond wakes up underwater, they're just kind of like getting too horny to kill him. And they just kind of leave.
Yeah, well, they wait on him to emerge so they can shoot him, but Bond realizes he can see through the water clearly enough that they're waiting, so he uncaps one of the tires and sucks ox. My notes were basically, if I remember correctly, my book is away from me. My notes were you wouldn't download a car, and then it was sucking off a tire because he basically huffs air out of the tire to stay awake underwater until they've walked away, and then he is able to escape.
I like this.
In the world of Cars 2, he's now common law married.
So now we get a character we all love, our magnificent boy.
First of all, first shot of this scene is extremely good.
Yes.
I'm not going to spend the time to explain it, but it was just very well framed. I liked it.
Zorin is at the racetrack, and we meet our boy, General Gogol.
He walks in and he goes,
back, baby, head of the KGB.
Zorin. And I went, yes.
Also, I was like, damn, Gogol's bodyguard is hot. Like the guy in the background.
Yeah. I'm glad you noticed it. Yeah, I was like, whoa, what the fuck?
Dolph Lundgren. And the reason why it's Dolph Lundgren is that he was dating Grace Jones at that point. You've probably seen the photos. The most powerful couple in the world.
Oh, I've seen those photos maybe 100 times.
Yeah. And so because he was on set anyway with Grace Jones, the director was like, well, I need a big guy to be Gogol's bodyguard. Do you want to like lace him up for this movie? And he did.
Dudes rock. Dudes
rock. So
Dolph Lundgren and Grace Jones actually had a secret love child, and that child was Devon.
Thank you.
So Gogol is like,
that to the back.
You're a KGB agent, and that means you got to stop fucking around with this horse shit because you're compromising our operations.
Yeah, he genuinely walks in and he's like, hey, remember the plot of the movie?
Yeah, remember that you're a KGB agent? And Zoran's like,
Zorin goes, microchips. Yeah, got it.
Microchips. But also, I quit. I'm into this horse thing now. I don't work for the KGB. And one of Gogol's...
He's going reds to riches. He's not going to be a billionaire as a cover. He's just going to do it.
One of Gogol's guys, the non-Dolph Lundgren guy, goes, well, the KGB created you, and we made you, and without us, you'd just be a weird biological freak of nature. And Mayday picks that guy up over her head.
I was like, I'm tired today. It's been a long day, but like I did recall a guy basically getting suplexed by Mayday. I didn't remember that wrong, right?
Completely picked up. Yeah, it's fantastic. We should take this moment then, actually, because we skipped over a extremely powerful guy.
Which guy did we skip over?
The most unbelievably Nazi-looking. Nazi Q, right? Nazi Q.
The weird. I mentioned him earlier as the weird vet going in and out of the horse stalls.
the weird Nazi vet.
Yeah.
Dr. Karl Mortner.
Dr. Karl Mortner with a He's got like a monocle. He looks like he looks like a Nazi because he's a Nazi.
He's a eugenicist. Yeah. That's his deal. He like openly just tells Bond, "Yes, I have bred the horses to make them into the master equine race." Yeah. Like it's that.
So because Gogol is very, very affable.
Bond genuinely says to him something like, suppose you could also use that on humans if you considered, to which the fully a Nazi scientist goes, yes. And then it's like, do you get it?
We're doing boys from Brazil shit. So,
I'm going to be extremely mad in about 5 minutes about this guy, so I needed him set up. All right.
So Gogol is like, because he's the world's most affable man, is like, no one ever leaves the KGB. We'll get you back. But in the meantime, understandable. Also, please stop suplexing my guys, and leaves.
He's put my guy down.
Now, at this point, we transition seamlessly to what may be the best please touch this metal plate scene.
Oh, it's so good. It's actually so good.
Fucking franchise. So Zorin briefs a bunch of like international tycoons, right? And it's more or less a retread of the like gangsters thing from Goldfinger, even to the point of him having a little model on the table that he like brings up that he's very proud of. But when he tells them, okay, I've got a plan, and that plan is to destroy Silicon Valley so we can all get rich making microchips, and the Americans won't be able to compete with us.
At this point I wrote, okay, he's based, I'm on his side.
One guy goes,
yeah,
okay, I don't want to do this. I'm not interested. And so Zoran's like, okay, fine. Do you mind stepping outside for like confidentiality reasons? would you please touch your hand onto this
He walks
metal
outside
plate?
and he goes, Mayday will keep you entertained. And she leaves, and I'm like, oh, this man is the deadest.
She gives him a little wink too, which is just like perfect.
They walk out, and Mayday says, "This way, please." And he walks down a little flight of stairs, and then Mayday presses a button, and the floor opens up, and it's revealed that we're on a fucking blimp with Zorin's name on it, and this guy just goes, "Ah!"
We're on a fucking dirigible.
They drop him out of a dirigible into San Francisco Bay. It's great.
Yes.
Oh no, sorry. Fuck, the line isn't Mayday will take care of you, it's Mayday will get you a drink.
And then he says, does anyone else want to drop out?
A bit that only he understands. Sorry, Karen.
Yes. No, I noticed that too. I was like, see, that's the Bond moment when they have to have the sly pun in there on top of like the villain doing villain shit. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I thought was really funny was maybe instinctively, that guy, Asian American guy who says, no, I don't want to be part of it, he's almost next to Grace Jones, I think, or in the crowd clapping at Royal Ascot. And when I saw him, I was like, oh, that dude's dead. That's a henchman. He's so fucking dead. And so the fact that then like he does in fact die by getting thrown out of a fucking blimp. I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe my read on Bond movies is okay.
Well, we don't know what the plan is yet. We know he's going to destroy Silicon Valley, but we don't know whether he means literally or metaphorically or like
we
how.
We have something to get through first, which is Mayday and Zorin come to the cockpit of the blimp, and guess what the title of this movie is?
You.
What of you?
To a kill.
That's the name of the movie that we're watching.
Such a no one would ever say that.
That was the thing that I thought too. I was like,
situation.
that's not even a bad line, but the fact, like her saying that, what a view, but him saying that, I was like you just said, Alice, I was like, yes. It's a Bond movie. They have to fucking
it's the
hit
title
you.
Of this
genuinely just like
at this point, James Bond has not been in the James Bond movie for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, which is why I've been enjoying it so far. My notes from this moment says this movie owns.
Yeah, we know broadly what the plan is, which is destroy Silicon Valley to make microchips. But like mostly, we've just been like hanging out with Max Zorin.
And the only misstep so far is him basically saying that's Shappy.
100%. So we meet Bond again. We have to fucking go back to our guy.
Yeah.
And he's right. He's in San Francisco. He's on the docks. He goes to a fresh seafood. Go right
There's
ahead.
a lot of this movie in San Francisco. And the reason why is that Mayor of San Francisco at that point, Dianne Feinstein, wanted to fuck Roger Moore. Because Dianne Feinstein wanted to fuck Roger Moore, she gave this production every possible permit, every filming location, and every tax abatement she could give them. And now,
get him queen! Cougar shit.
It may be libelous of me to say that I assume that in order to get this movie made, they had to make Roger Moore have sex with Dianne Feinstein. But I believe that's what had to happen for this.
One of the people involved.
I mean, you'd better hope that he was good.
Yeah.
I can't know if that's libelous because one of them's dead and the other is like fucking senescent. So I don't know. Yeah, I reckon we could say.
I mean,
yeah. So
I think it's fair.
I'll get the legal counsel on this. Yeah, I think we can intuit from the information that we've been provided that Roger
Moore was Dianne Feinstein's favorite Bond. She made a lot of like things very easy for them because she would like Roger Moore a lot. Yeah, no, 100%.
Well, she only had 3 to choose from at that point, and she did choose wrong, admittedly, but
he was 58.
He was 58 during the filming of this movie.
Bond meets a CIA agent called Lee.
A suitably insecure code phrase, which was to approach a fucking seafood stand and go, yes, I'd like the soft-shelled crab, which is a thing that they could conceivably sell.
We have to like tick off another big like Bond tick box here, which is weird fisherman-related intrigue. Like this is taking us all the way back to like Dr. No and Thunderball, where Lee like takes him to like a crab fisherman who's like, oh, the crabs are all fucked because of fucking Max Zorin's pumping station for oil. Not sure what accent I was trying to do there.
No, because we get a fucking line. We get a line from CIA agent Lee about the fucking Nazi doctor. where he genuinely complains that Russia provided amnesty for a Nazi scientist after World War II. We've got a fucking CIA guy straight up going, bloody Russians onboarded this Nazi after World War II.
The
Disgraceful.
The Russians.
And I'm like, are you fucking
Nazi
with me?
Eugenicist.
You fucking kidding me?
So horse guy
in the camps, his deal was like trying to enhance intelligence by injecting people with
horse steroids.
And the result was that it created a number of, I guess, like boys from Brazil, like extremely blonde, extremely intelligent Nazi children who were also psychopaths.
And obviously, one of those is Max Zorin.
Yes.
Zorin.
Yeah.
And so the reason why Max Zorin defected from the East is the Soviets took this Nazi eugenicist, used his horse steroids expertise for their Olympic program, and then...
Yeah, unfortunately, they have to compete under the athletes from Russia tag now. Or buggers.
They created a number of these like boys from Brazil and then sent one of them west as like a sleeper agent. So... interesting. A lot of ideology going on.
It was such an ideology line that I had to pause the movie.
Zorin has a Nazi super brain.
Yeah.
He's got a Nazi super
and he's
brain.
Got a Nazi
he's also got an
figure.
oil pumping station.
Yes, he does.
Yes.
Right
He's got an oil pumping station, which Bond scubas into. He almost gets minced up by an underwater fan. Simultaneously, the Russians are also infiltrating it. And they catch the Russian agent, and he gets thrown into the underwater fan and like chopped up into gristle.
It's quite a harrowing shot.
Yeah, but Bond comes back to shore and finds another one of the Russian agents who has escaped, and it's a sexy lady.
Yeah. This is where the film starts meandering and just adding 5 or 10 minute bits that don't need to be in it.
This is the moment at which, if you're watching this movie, you can stop watching the movie and skip about 50 minutes ahead.
Yes.
This is the point where he just starts going through various other movies.
Yes.
Yeah, we're killing time here.
The thing about the Russian guy getting thrown into the sort of man blender is that it's quite a good shot, although not because they've progressed past the point of filming these scenes by like throwing a dummy at something and filming it, but because they've gotten good at filming the dummy. So it's not immediately clear. Like they're still using the same techniques they use in Dr. No, but they've just advanced in cinematography.
Yeah. So Bond, I really wanted Agent Triple X back here.
I know, I wrote this down.
So did
if only there was a Russian agent that Bond had history with.
Yeah, and this Cold War stuff is always like almost good. So you get this kind of like fun thing of like sexy Russian agent and Bond having history and also like sort of mutually betraying each other in a kind of like affable, no hard feelings way. They go to like a Japanese bathhouse, I guess, because they have to do some like weird non shit, and Bond like takes the tape recording that she had made of Zorin explaining like his plan a little bit more and switches it. So when she tries to run out on him, Gogol comes and picks her up like her dad, which I really appreciate.
It was really good, yeah. He's just personally doing it, the head of the fucking KGB.
What's also great is there's...
Yeah, he's like, text me when you get to Callerton and I'll come pick you up.
There's a shot of Gogol in the car waiting for her, and that's not fucking Gogol. And then the next shot, it's Gogol. It's great. Did not bother to change that.
Okay.
Yeah, so they try to double cross him, and they're left with the tape of the like Japanese spa music, entirely Japanese.
At this point,
we still don't know what Zorin's plan is.
No fucking idea. So James goes to City Hall, San Francisco.
Yeah, how do you get the permits to film in there?
Guy, impossible to know. Goes to talk to a guy about Zorin. He's pretending to be a
Financial Times reporter called James Stock. Yes.
James Stock. Yeah, man. James Stonks fucking walks right in.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
he meets this kind of bureaucrat who explains to him, it's called fracking, Bond. And this bureaucrat just sort of lies to him to his face. He's like, oh yeah, of course. What he was doing there, he was injecting seawater into his oil wells, which is a totally normal thing to do. It's actually safe. It's insanely safe.
Because James goes there to to go like, hey, did you know that this guy's pumping seawater into his oil wells?
Yeah, and this guy just goes,
yeah, it's sick
rules.
and cool, whatever.
Exactly.
The extremely paid off politician is just like, yeah, it's sick.
Luckily, Bond sees a woman and, of course, immediately follows her.
He genuinely enters nonce mode, and there's like a fucking musical cue. When he starts following her, there's like a wide shot of her going down a staircase with a bunch of other people there, and you see him also join that crowd of people going down the staircase, and there is a genuine musical cue to indicate that nonce mode has begun.
In fairness, this is the woman whom he saw get the check from Zorin. But because everybody in the 80s who wasn't a lesbian or Grace Jones had this fucking Farrah Fawcett-ass haircut, genuinely hard-pressed to tell them apart is the thing. And
most genuinely like damaged hair I think I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it's all feathered and shit. And so like the way that it looks, if you're half paying attention, which is the only way to watch any Bond movie, is Bond laser locks in on the nearest woman, follows her out of work into her car, follows her home, like drives 2 car lengths behind on her commute home, waits until she gets home, breaks in by unlocking one of her windows, and tries to enter her bathroom while she's taking a shower.
This is Man from the Golden Gun.
But she gets the drop on him.
This is genuinely my comment from the Man from the Golden Gun again, which is like, this is his favorite part of doing spy work is, a woman's in the shower, time for me to arrive. But at this point...
But she fakes him out.
At this point, we're used to that.
She's seen the film Golden Man with the finger, and she's seen all of the... She's listened to this podcast, so he sees her in the shower, or he thinks he hears her in the shower. He activates nonce mode, and he goes in, and then she like emerges from behind the door with a fucking shotgun, and is like, "Put your hands up! I've been listening to Kill James Bond. Get out of my house."
And that's the sort of benefits that listening to Kill James Bond will get you.
That's right.
Exactly.
She tries to call the cops, and she's like, "Oh, I bet you even cut the phone line too, you massive English nonce." And Bond's like, I didn't know
I'm just a little boy.
And I'm just a little birthday boy. You wouldn't shoot a little birthday boy. So,
I just wanted a shower.
And so at this point, Zorin's goons storm the house, and Bond just like effortlessly takes the shotgun from her, pushes her across a room, and shoots a couple of guys.
Yeah, he just goes into full Robert Rodriguez movie mode, just blasting people left and right with a shotgun, and then realizes she's loaded it with rock salt, so all it does is just kind of annoy them and give them a couple of scabs.
Yeah, I always wondered about this when I saw this as a kid, whether you could actually load a shotgun with salt, if that would like do anything.
You can't just like pour it in, but
you can load. You can have shotgun shells loaded with salt or with like. I mean, everything. The shotguns are weird in that, like you said, salt rounds, little pepper balls, or like a whole fucking metal slug if you really want to. So, basically he chases them off by non-fatally beating their asses and shooting them with non-fatal rounds.
The fight moves downstairs where there is exactly one thing in the entire house.
The vase.
Which is a vase, an urn, that kind of thing. Like, I'm genuinely being serious, audience. It's a fully empty
Milo walked in,
watching
the movie and was like, "Oh, I'd love to live in a huge empty house." And I was just like, "Yeah."
Well, they do explain this.
Yeah, they do explain it.
Because she's like, "Oh yeah, I don't have any food or any furniture," and Bond is like, "Oh, I'll make you the worst quiche you've ever seen in your life." As like a romantic gesture.
She smashes throughout the fight. Bond is like trying to avoid breaking the vase, but she
one thing left
finishes it off by smashing it on one of the assailants' heads.
So Bond makes her the worst quiche you've ever seen in your life. It is
green.
And
we miss a trick here severely because Bond cooks for her, and then we have the shot of the two of them conversing while they're sat down eating the quiche. And like, you got to imagine the process of creating and cooking a quiche is several fucking hours.
Yeah.
They could have done this entire conversation while he was cooking, and it would have made him a more sympathetic character.
You just sit there in silence while I make this horrible quiche. And she explains that like her dad owned an oil company, Sutton Oil. And like Zorin tried to buy them out by force. And she tried to fight it through the courts, and in so doing, lost like all her money, all her furniture, all her clothes and shit. And finally, Zorin was about to buy her off with this $5 million check, which is way more than the like shares are worth. And
at this point, Abigail turned to me and said, finding it hard to feel sympathetic towards the oil heiress.
Yeah, towards the woman who inherited an oil company.
It's like, come on, fuck you then. Whatever.
She tears up the check because like Bond has
Get a
like
job.
inspired her to. Well, she has a job. That's why she got this job. She like got a job on the side at City Hall to like tide her through her oil.
Owning things isn't a job.
No. She was a
she
geologist.
Did get a real job.
Is the thing. But she can't just do that. She also has to have an oil company. Anyway, now at this point, this is traditionally where Bond would, under false pretenses and using a false name, have sex with this woman.
Which, fortunately, he is using a false name, but
he does not have sex with her. You daft old sweet bastard falls asleep in a rocking chair.
Genuinely is quite nice.
And you're just like,
the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite nice. They're gonna ruin it later by like making them have sex like later, but like for now, this is just like, I realize I'm too old to be having sex with you.
Like he goes to check on some things, he reconnects the phone line, and she is asleep in bed, and he goes, "Well, I'm not going to disturb that." And he like falls asleep, sat on a chair with the shotgun across his lap, which is fine.
It's nice.
Strong must protect the sweet.
Her name is Stacy, by the way. She is blonde and she is American, so therefore 2 thumbs way up.
Yeah, sorry, you're going to have to deal with that. Right?
In the morning, there's been a minor tremor overnight, which possibly triggered by Zorin fracking.
Yeah, she fully is just like, I've got a computer here, and she's like,
it's a little Apple II on a bedside table. Yeah,
it's got like logo
and
and
immediately
everything,
pulls
fully
up.
paid
She
for by Apple
immediately
Macintosh.
pulls up like the seismic shock, like seismograph, and locates where it is. And yeah, I was like, damn, I didn't realize those old computers I saw in the basically school computer lab junkyard in the 90s were so powerful.
Yeah, Bond brings Agent Lee to the house, and he has to go 2 for 2 on getting his accomplices killed. Here.
This was genuinely, I was thinking,
move twice.
In a while since we've seen Mayday. I was genuinely thinking that at the start of the series.
James Bond, like,
killing Tibbet was a mistake. I'm about to make the same mistake twice.
Because he sends him on the same fucking errand of, all right, go and get help by sitting in the front seat of a car and don't look at the back seat. And he gets got.
Like Grace Jones is not going to successfully hide in the back seat if you turn your head like 20 degrees. This is entirely on you, man.
I wish I could get struck with Grace Jones. Anyway,
I know you said this.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying it again because she does it twice. So James Bond. So Stacy tries to like push for moderate reform within the system. She goes back to work at City Hall, talks to her boss, and she tries to like confront him with the evidence of Zorin's like plan, and he immediately
pumping seawater into her wells, and there's like a big fault line.
Yeah, he's doing
in
fracking.
California. I don't know if anyone's aware of this.
He is doing fracking, and he's trying to frack the San Andreas Fault.
And she goes, "Hey, this could kill all of us," and he's like,
"Yeah, this is Lex Luthor shit from Superman 1."
Yeah, so he fires her, and they try to like come back and sneak in. Because in a classic Bond move, thanks to all of this intelligence gathering, he has only overheard one code name. And like, since this is sort of a loose remake of Goldfinger, it's like Operation Grand Slam. It's Project Mainstrike. He's heard the name Project Mainstrike. And so he and Stacy are going to break back into City Hall after hours, and they're going to try and find out what they can about Project Mainstrike.
And they discover that Mainstrike is the name of a mine. I would personally have renamed my plan something else.
Use a more secure code name.
Project location of my plan.
Yes.
Come on.
Project.
But they get caught, and we get a genuinely extremely good pair of scenes, one after the other.
I love Zorin's little polycule so much, man. They own. He like Zorin gets them at gunpoint, and he gets the Stacy's old boss to call the cops, and her boss is like, "Well,
Also, the way that Zorin gets them at gunpoint is he's not like lurking in the shadows waiting for them. Bond is like going through the files with Stacy, and then Zorin just walks in the door with a gun
like, hey,
and is like,
"Hey,
he just enters the scene like a character in a sitcom, like we were supposed to go, woo! And Christopher Walken walks in.
Yeah. So he gets Stacy's old boss to call the cops, and the guy's like, why? And Zorin explains to him. And we're sort of led to believe that this is thanks to his superior Nazi brain that he's able to think of this quickly. But he's like, well, these two broke in to get revenge on you for firing them, and then they shot you, set fire to the office to conceal the evidence, and then suffocated to death in the elevator. And the guy goes, well, I would have to be, and Zorin just shoots him. He's like, dead, yeah, rules.
And he genuinely says, like, my secret is improv, Mr. Bond.
I do, yes, and Mr. Bond.
He like genuinely, it's like just a little bit of improvisation, Mr. Bond.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the two lesbians like splashing canisters full of gasoline around the office. It's nice.
So I want to summarize really quickly because this gets to one of the most surreal parts of this film, which is all right. So obviously they are trapped. They have to get out of the elevator. Bond finds a way to climb out, and right before the cables snap in the heat, he is able to. It's Stacy. I'm not stupid, right?
Stacy.
Yeah, he's able to get Stacy out. Basically in the nick of time, then goes to the roof, climbs down the elevator. Everyone cheers. The cops come up to him and talk to him, and then basically he reveals he works for the British Secret Service. They don't believe him. They're going to arrest him because they found his gun in there when they were searching. He then fires a water cannon at them and blasts them away, then steals the fire truck, drives through the city of San Francisco.
Not to directly interrupt you, but the method through which they ascertain that it's his gun is fantastic. They just literally come up to him with a gun in like a fully in evidence bag and go, "This your gun?" And he goes, "Oh yes, thank you."
He makes a little grab for it.
No, like, okay, you're fully under arrest.
So anyway, he blasts the heavy set police officer with a water cannon.
Sheriff J.W. Pepper, San Francisco Police Department.
Could have been
a car chase crash, police being dumbasses, Keystone Cops style scene through the city of San Francisco, which the best thing I could describe it is somewhere between Police Academy and the Blues Brothers, in which moron
genuinely
it's really long.
Yeah, and Diane Feinstein got that Roger Moore dome so good that she made the SFPD, who were busy doing like Zodiac killer shit at this point, like made them film a 20-minute long scene of looking like assholes, which I appreciate a lot.
I mean, legally, we probably can't say that Roger Moore made Diane Feinstein come like a howler monkey, but he did do it.
She had a certain kind of like calculating idea here that the more she distracted the San Francisco police with this movie, the less likely it was they'd be able to investigate Harvey Milk's murder. So she just kept at it, make the scene as long as possible.
God, it's just like a 2-hit punch. Jesus. So this is what I was talking about earlier.
What do you know about Harvey Milk?
No, this is what I was talking about earlier, where Bond is just making detours through other movies. Like, he's in the Towering Inferno, then he's in the Naked Gun. They have a bit where the fire truck that they're in, because they're in the fire truck, jumps over a raising bridge, and they don't even fucking show it.
It barely crosses over, but it's done in such a way like it's a really quick shot, and the remaining 5 minutes of that shot is just police cars sliding on each other and crashing, and then like the cops getting in trouble. The guy's like, "You're gonna lose your promotion and pay for this car out of your fucking pocket," and then and then another car gets crushed.
The counterweight.
I mean, it's not even that important. Like, basically, he gets away from City Hall by doing this, and then if I remember correctly, the next scene is them back.
They drive the fire truck to this mine, like across the state.
So at this point, at the end of the fire truck scene, for background, I watched this with my dear friend Abigail Thorne, just before I had to get the train back home from London. And at this point, I was like, where is the fucking Bond movie? I need to finish this so I can go home. My train is in an hour. Like, I was genuinely
and so they get to the mine, and in briefest summary, they sneak in. They basically pull some shenanigans.
There are two things I want to pull out in getting into the mine. Thing one, he has Stacy with him. She's still wearing high heels, and a guy notices. And Bond's line, doing a weird sort of American accent, is
"It's women's lib. They're taking over the Teamsters."
Okay,
it's quite good. I don't know.
But also the other thing I want to pull out, and we'll come back to this later, is you'll see why I come back to it. As they come in, Bond isn't wearing a hard hat, and a goon pulls them up on this, and he's like, "Hey, stop!" And you think that they've been made. He like hands Bond a hard hat, and it's like, "You got to wear this. It's a mine. There's you have to wear
union regs, man.
Yeah, exactly."
I appreciate the fact that we have OSHA for villains. I think that at least
so
lets me know that the world James Bond inhabits is kind of coterminous with the modern world. And so basically they get into the mine, the sneaking in subterfuge. They're able to determine that that in the plans control room shed that nobody is in, they're able to sneak in and find everything revealed, which they just conveniently lock a latch. That they identify the location of all of Zorin's mines, oil fields, etc., and quickly identify that basically if he is able to flood them all and then detonate this device that he's having planted at this moment in the San Andreas Fault, it is going to basically shift the fault and it's going to flood the entirety of Silicon Valley and the San Francisco Bay Area with ocean water. So
he's putting a giant like detonator into a cavern filled with bags of Anfo, which is great.
And in destroying Silicon Valley, that will allow him to capture a large share of the microchip markets, just to bring us back to
and he will get away
the plot
clean
of the movie
because it will be like attributed to natural causes.
Yeah, and they say that very just straight to the camera.
And in order to make sure that that nobody is the wiser, he then initiates supervillain Nazi brain plan, which is kill everyone involved besides Nazi doctor and his airship pilot.
Yes.
You're ripping through this plot. I have several points I want to pull up. The first one is they put on a Zorin Industries coverall, which I need.
Yeah, I want one of those bomber jackets with a cool Z on the back. Nice.
There is also a moment where, as they leave the secret plans shed, like Zorin notices that they're in there because they're like, oh, someone's locked the door on the plans shed. We should check out what's going on in there.
Why did we open that
up? And it's like the two of them, and they leave, and he just shoots out the window for a bit until he runs out of bullets. At which point he looks at Mayday with such a "fuck on then" expression on his face.
He does a great like get him. Like it's like a go on then.
Sorry.
He's like, Jesus Christ, what are you guys fucking doing?
Point, I have written down, fuck, I wish I could get hunted through a mine by lesbians.
Yeah, no, fully occurs.
Fuck, I wish Grace Jones would tear my clothes off. There's like another couple pages of this. I'll try
climbing
and
through a mine shaft, Stacy gets dragged down by Grace Jones, who basically rips her dress off, and it's just like...
Yeah, it rules. Yeah. Meanwhile, as you say, Zorin has activated kill everyone mode, and so he gets Scarpine now, who has like planted some explosives next to the miners. And one of the miners' foreman is like, "But Mr. Zorin, those men are still in there, and they're loyal to you." And Zorin kicks him off of a small rise, and then grabs an Uzi because again, pimp, and just starts killing everyone.
Just fully lays complete waste.
At this point, he is wearing...
It's a black day for the guys on Hench. They've gone through a lot. They were in Dr. No's radioactive room. They were in Goldfinger's Asian factory. They went to space with the himbos, and now they're being shot by Christopher
Zorin is, at this point, wearing a double-breasted blue suit jacket, white pants, and white boat shoes. And just spraying everybody with an Uzi.
And Scupping's there as well, helping out, of course.
It's great. And then we see his sort of like orgiastic thing of violence, and then he just like kind of like switches back to normal. He's like,
a point that we should make immediately. He also like sets off the initial blast where it doesn't set off the explosives on the San Andreas Fault, but it does flood the entire thing with seawater. Which just effortlessly kills the two lesbians. They aren't even. They barely even die on screen. They just
But Grace Jones sees them and sees what's happening, and then immediately has a change of heart and decides to work with Bond.
Grace Jones is like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on.
Zorin's escape plan at this point is to use a blimp concealed within a porter cabin.
This man has not one but two dirigibles.
Second dirigible, yes. He inflates this blimp. Farrah Fawcett, Stacey Sutton, whatever, gets out. And Grace Jones and Bond have to like disarm this bomb, which requires them using the crane to like lift it off of the like sacks of fertilizer.
So effectively,
bring me to my favorite joke, my favorite current fact, which is that there are 25 blimps in the world right now.
Oh, it's depressing.
There's so
do you know what
few, man. And
so
back
do you know what there's not any of?
them.
Grace Jones lesbian Bowflex, because my God, this whole scene of her just yoking shit and just like basically
makes me want to get into CrossFit.
They're able to extricate the big detonator device,
just lift the weights
and put it onto a rail car, basically with her upper body strength alone. That she just winches this shit over and over again. And obviously Roger Moore's not going to. I mean, that's just sort of implied he's not strong enough to do it. You know, he's like, I'm an old man.
Yeah.
It's made extremely clear. It's explicit.
Yeah. But she has to ride on the minecart with the detonator on because she has to hold the brake
because
off.
the handbrake is on.
Because fail safe.
So you got to kill some women in this movie.
She rides on it, and Roger Moore is like, Mayday, no, get off that. And she's like, I've got to do this. And at this point, I turned to
she's like, fuck you.
Friend of the show, Abigail Thorne, and I said, I would like to... What? Abby, where did you get here? I'd like to put forward that I am nominating Mayday for a double award of both the Kronstein Rosette and the Goodnight Cross.
I have some thoughts on this, but
we'll get to it.
Mayday is exploded. Bond escapes the mine. And
the rest of the Bond movie happens.
The other lady, Farrah Fawcett, like crests a hill and is like, James, and I have written down here in my notes, sick of this Farrah Fawcett looking lady. How the fuck do you get ambushed by a blimp?
Because genuine, like a blimp fucking hunts this woman down. Like, it's shot so well.
He sneaks up on her in a
it's
blimp.
shot so well because she like crests the hill outside the mine, and then the blimp also crests the hill, and you're like, lady, there's a fucking entire blimp behind you.
Yes.
And on the blimp is Zorin, what's his name?
Scarpine. And
Scarpine.
like Nazi.
Scarpine and the Nazi
and
doctor.
Q, they're all in that blimp together, and they're hanging out and just like toasting champagne, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So she gets kidnapped by a blimp. Bond jumps onto one of the mooring ropes, and then we have essentially the end. We get the end of Octopussy, if you remember that, where Bond is on like the outside of an aircraft, and there's a woman who's been kidnapped on the inside of an aircraft, and they're trying to throw him off the aircraft. It's the same deal, exact same deal, except they ram the blimp into the Golden Gate Bridge, and Zorin tries to kill Bond with a fire axe, is thrown to his death.
He laughs. He gets like stuck on the edge of it, and he's like slipping.
I'm the damn Joker. It's funny to me, actually.
He's like laughing to himself, like, there's no way. It's like, this is not gonna kill me. You can't kill me like that. I can't go out. I've got a Nazi super brain. And then he falls and dies.
Watch the Fanboy Slim music video for Weapon of Choice.
Yeah.
More Christopher Walken content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've written here the entire final scene is fucking cinema because it's just James Bond on the Golden Gate.
Yeah,
blimp explosion. The Nazi explodes the blimp.
The Nazi scientist, Nazi Q, is like, oh no, my son that I created through Nazi experiments has fucking fallen off the bridge and died. What should I do in this scenario? Get a fucking bundle of TNT.
From the safe of dynamite that we keep on this blimp.
Dynamite fridge.
The dynamite humidor.
He picks it up and he just like falls over, and him and Scarpine are like, get the fucking dynamite out, and it just doesn't. Both of them are just like, it's genuinely like a too many cooks situation. They're both just trying to snatch it off each other, and then it explodes and it kills them both. And I'm like, cool, fantastic.
At this point, I got distracted and started writing things down about how it's interesting how like the foreign power of the villain is always intelligence, and that Bond is just, like positioned inherently against intelligence. And then the movie ends because What sounds
happen? Like some serious analysis.
Bond does, however,
I don't
Bond does receive the Order of Lenin.
Yeah, he fucking does.
The first non-Soviet citizen to receive the Order of Lenin, Gogol. They let Gogol into M's office.
Gogol straight up awards the Order of Lenin to Roger Moore's Bond as a bit.
Yes,
he does it entirely so that he can fucking deliver a line.
Yes, because they're like, M is like, well, I would have thought you would have appreciated the destruction of Silicon Valley, and Gogol goes, oh, where would Russian research be without it? He did that just to set up that line.
He genuinely gave the first non-Soviet Order of Lenin so that he could do a line.
I love Gogol so much, man. Beautiful.
He's so good.
Of course, Bond now has to be having sex, and he has to be having sex with Stacy. Q drives the little fucking Sony Aibo spy dog into her house in order to confirm this, and he sees them in the shower. And the very last thing that Roger Moore does as James Bond, the last line, if you like, that he has, I have as a drop entitled Weird Noise.
Thank you! Thank you! I'm so glad you noticed it, because I was going to say that.
Last thing he does in the role is they're in the shower, they're fucking, and he goes,
yes! Yes, I heard that too.
It's in
I was just like, is that the homophobic? No, it's like genuinely because she's like, oh, James. He's like, ooh. like I said, it seemed like an aftertouch voiceover thing, just so you knew that like he's there too, but he's also on camera, so you don't really need that.
No, it's just
he genuinely sounds like a carry-on character. It's so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's gone. He's gone.
The funniest part about this is that it cuts immediately from directly into Duran Duran. Like the next
that
sound you
fatal
hear
kiss is all we need.
Is the synths from View to a Kill. And that is the fucking movie. That is Roger Moore's tenure as James Bond served.
R.I.P. to a real one.
Genuinely pouring one out for our boy Roger Moore. Gone too soon. So genuinely something I didn't bring up because where do you talk about a leitmotif in the process of a Kill James Bond episode? But there's consistently the sort of tune of the View to a Kill Duran Duran song played in like sensitive bits. It's like quite a sensual scene, and it's just like it's good. I really like the way that the music in this movie is.
I did notice that there's sort of like a flute version of View to a Kill being played.
Yeah, it's like a genuinely quite cute little.
kind of played it as a refrain throughout it.
This movie is kind of insubstantial on the one hand. It's like we crashed Goldfinger and Moonraker together, and this is the result. But like,
ultimately, it is the Bond kaleidoscope.
I think the first hour is great.
Christopher Walken does a fantastic job in this. Is the other thing.
Genuinely, you could pull about half an hour to 45 minutes out of this movie, and it would be not only a better film, but it would flow better. It would be fun. Like it would be a good movie.
We don't have to rely on subjective judgments on this podcast.
You're right.
No, we don't.
Because we have an objective, science-based categorization system.
Has been proven to be scientific.
Max Zorin, we are on the computer. And on the computer, we have developed a 4-point rating scale we call the SCUM scale. 4, SMUM, cultural insensitivity, unprovoked violence, and misogyny.
And these scales go to 7 unless we want them to be higher.
Yes.
Yeah. They're all being like projected onto our eyes now as we're typing. Numbers are coming up. We're all like 16-bit versions of our heads are rotating around.
Before we get into this, I want to be clear here. I genuinely think this movie is going to be extremely low on all of these.
Yeah, I'm worried. So what do we think in terms of Smart?
It's pretty low, mostly because he's too old to be
Yeah, he makes a
smarmy.
couple of one-liners and stuff like that, but like it's basing it off what you guys have all talked about on and like the clips you've pulled in previous episodes, it doesn't seem anywhere near as bad.
No, it doesn't stand up to early Roger Moore.
It's not even really a Bond movie, is the thing. It doesn't doesn't feel like a sort of meaningful addition to the franchise. So it's like
him and Zorin are about equal for
honestly,
Smart.
It's more of a Zorin movie than a Bond film.
I heard that this film actually wasn't super well received at the time because Christopher Walken was just kind of came across as a psycho and shooting up people and stuff. But it's weird because I think but it's weird. Like I think people wanted more camp than that, and as such, like it just I don't think it was that well received. And it's funny to me because I think Moore actually kind of pulls it off because he's obviously so old that like okay, the stunts notwithstanding, there's a certain kind of like almost elder statesman vibe because like he can't be the super physical like super sexy guy. Like he's sort of trading on the like accent and spy powers to get into bed with women, and that's kind of the way that Bond movies are oriented, that like you said, as soon as he walks in, no matter what his age, he's the sexiest age a man can be. That's just like the logic of the universe.
100%.
But I didn't find it that smarmy. I mean, the one-liners, that's kind of par for the course, but I mean, I didn't groan.
I could go really low here.
I didn't groan anywhere near as much as I thought I would.
I'd go one.
Genuinely, I would go extremely low on this one. And the thing about
culture and sensitivity,
there's basically nothing. There's a couple of lines regarding Mayday and it's not even Bond who says it.
No,
where it's sort of implied like, wow, she's freakishly strong. It must be because she's black, that kind of a thing. But it genuinely like you'd have to read that into it. It's not.
Yeah, there's
explicit.
not. It's a far cry from like the explicit stuff of even just like 2 movies. ago.
Oh,
I would also say too that there's an extent to which she is a character. It feels like it's less look at this freak, and it's more just sort of like look at Grace Jones. Like the fact that she's Grace Jones, like in a way, they like the script almost has a certain gravitas for her character that it probably wouldn't afford if she was just
she's good.
A random henchman. You know what I mean? I will say there's a little bit of what was it was Pan Ho is the name of the other lesbian henchwoman. Why is she always in what looks like?
She's always wearing a cheongsam or a kimono.
That's a little, like I said, but that's even like kind of minor gripes, all things considered.
It's like my minor thing is like at Zorin's party, they try and do the thing of like, oh, this is like rich and powerful people from all over the world. So that like there's a guy in like Arab robes. There's like, and it's like kind of like, well, they're trying in the sort of like mid-80s sort of way, and that like it's diverse. We put a black person in this, and it's like
there's a couple of like sort of Chinese people in there too.
Yeah, I was gonna say the CIA agent Lee. I mean, obviously, like
exactly. Well, that wasn't what I meant. I meant there's a couple of Chinese people in attendance.
Oh yeah. Well, I was just thinking too that like he is at least a character, even if he's like so disposed of as a character that he doesn't even get an on-screen death. But I didn't find it to be, I mean, and maybe also because of the fact that the places where this film takes place are a little bit of an interlude in Russia, England, France, and America, as opposed to jetting off to some exotic.
Bond goes to like
the Caribbean and treats everybody like a satrap.
Did Dianne Feinstein save this movie from being racist?
That's a hell of a fucking theory to put forward.
I would say ask her, but she absolutely does not remember.
Hey, do you remember View to a Kill, Diane? And she's like, I'm gonna
got some incredible dick from Roger Moore.
Cultural insensitivity. I could go like 1 here, I think.
Yeah,
go like a 1. Unprovoked violence.
He doesn't even like really.
It's on the part of Bond only, right?
It's slow again.
It's on the part of Bond only, right? Because obviously, like Zorin killing all of his henchmen is pretty high up there, but like that's Zorin. That's not Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think Bond even like kills him. He like shoots a couple of people with
rods. It's like unprovoked violence that the movie condones. Really, I guess is the vibe.
I mean, I would say
it's usually
I would give it a 2 and not a 1 if the debate was giving it a 1, because like I think that the extent to which the sort of dispatch all my henchmen scene is kind of to my eyes kind of an aberration for this phase of Bond films. It's certainly one of the more violent things to happen in a film. But in terms of what Bond himself does, like I don't, like you said, if he kills anybody, it's happenstance. Like he shoots all the guys with the rock salt gun, and like they're just like, oh, my leg. Like, it's not. They live. Yeah, exactly.
They live.
More friendly guys get killed then
get
henchmen.
shot with a Roxol gun and turn into Michael York.
How? My leg.
Oh.
You don't have to be shot with a Roxol gun. You can live.
Suck you off
I was
back to
thinking of
hell.
the guy from SpongeBob.
Yeah, I could go 2 for this, I think, unless there's something I'm badly missing. No, I'm really worried now. I'm getting real worried.
I'm starting to become
Down to the
genuinely
wire.
quite threatened by this.
Misogyny. I do want to give it some points because of
some misogyny
the
that
absolute
happens.
smashing the pussy clock record.
You gotta your punishment for being an evil woman is death, even if you repent. You kill a couple of lesbians just off screen. Is that's pretty bad.
Sneaking into a woman's bedroom to do nonce shit. The comment about women's lib, Michael York. It's
women's lib.
So I think in this case, the lowest I would go is a 3, but I could accept higher.
I could go 4, just because I think the way that they kill off Jenny Flex and Panho, I think that's a 4 for me.
I listen to women, so I'm out of this.
No, I don't think it's as high as Diamonds Are Forever, which was a 4, or on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is also a 4. I think it's got to be max 3.
You argue me down, but only because I remember the girl noises from On Her Majesty's Secret
Although to be fair, there are some girl noises in this, when they're escaping the planning lodge and the planning shack, and it's sort of don't be caught. She goes out the window, and she just goes going out the window, and it's just sort of well, yeah, because girls got to make noise when they're scared, right? that's how it works. So yeah. I think I could take a 3.
Yeah, I'll concede a 3 here, which is going to make this frighteningly
Isn't that
good.
a 6 then, total?
Oh my god, dude.
The score is 007.
No.
Cut our mics. Cut all of our mics. Close the episode. This is the Lost Kill James Bond episode. This will never go to print.
Which
no, it
makes
doesn't.
this
Lost episode. No, it's not.
No, it isn't. By 1 point. It is.
George!
It's 1 point better than
Fuck
George
you.
Lazenby. It's 1 point better than For Your Eyes Only, which was
can't be
tied
true.
with Lazenby.
Oh,
this is the best Bond film we have seen so far.
Here's my argument then. I think that we have unnecessarily tilted the scale towards Sean Connery. Is that when we were choosing what we were going to measure, it was much more 60.
We're gonna need some baseball nerds to do adjusted scum values for over time.
The science-based system is the science-based system, and science evolves. But
we have to account for inflation towards 2021 levels.
We're basically going to become the Bob McNamara of Bond movies. We're just arguing that actually the numbers are right.
Becoming a View to a Kill scum spectrum truther. No fucking way.
I support this. I think I had a lot of fun with this film. I think it is about 20 minutes too long, and it could have been cut and it meanders. But genuinely, I think the first hour is brilliant.
No, I did actually really like this movie. Which brings us to our second thing that we do, which is I've put forward that I want Mayday to receive both the Goodnight Cross and the Kronstein Rosette. I understand there to be some disagreement regarding this.
Now, my disagreement is solely on the Kronstein Rosette, because I would submit that the guy who goes above and beyond the call of duty, the guy who
you say
shows
Scarpine, I'm going to go ape shit.
Who cares? It's not Scarpine. It's the guy at the mine who makes Bond wear a hard hat. Because it's the first time we have seen someone care about occupational health and safety in the workplace.
Bullshit.
You know I am right. It's the hard hat guy. Doesn't even get a name.
How is that
get a
going
second
to
line.
possibly be put into our scripts? How does that fit on the Wikipedia page? Hard hat guy?
Yes.
Fine.
Hard hat guy. That's who it is.
Give him one. Fine.
Yeah, to be fair.
All right, good night, Cross.
He goes above and beyond the quality.
Fine. Kronstein Rosette to Hard Hat Guy.
Thank you.
No, why can't he have the good night Cross?
Because he's not
a good guy.
He's a henchman. He is evil.
He services to villainy, but
don't make that.
Fine.
Yeah, okay, fine. Good night, Cross. Then, who on the side of it's got to be? It's Gogol. It's Gogol, right? The first
underappreciated good characters.
Soviet citizen to be awarded the order.
I don't think he's underappreciated. I would say if you're going to argue for someone who isn't Mayday, and it doesn't make sense to give her the good night in absentia of the Kronstein,
sure,
I would say Godfrey Tibbett.
Yeah.
It's got to be Godfrey Tibbett.
It is. It's got to be.
You know, R.I.P. I was actually genuinely sad when he died because he took a lot of shit from Bond and also did some investigating on his own.
And there's a great bit where, as we sort of mentioned this earlier, he has to go past 3 horse stalls to infiltrate a thing, and he pets each and every one of those horses.
Physically cannot not pet those horses.
That's good Mike Cross material.
That's
fair enough.
Yeah.
Well.
So what are we doing next time, Alice? The era of Roger Moore is over, and the era of Timothy Dalton begins.
It looms. And so, well, first of all, we have to do our next Q&A, which we do to close out individual bonds. But after we don't?
Yeah. Well, we're not closing out individual bonds. It has worked out quite well, but we do it every 5th bonus.
We're accidentally closing out individual bonds.
3 for 3, whatever.
What looms over us is Timothy Dalton, The Living Daylights. This film is dedicated to the Mujahideen fighters of Afghanistan.
Now, my understanding is that there's been nothing significant in the news regarding them, so let's just...
It's going... Yeah, let's...
Well, I've been reading this big book of American history of the 20th century, and I've only gotten up to, the late 70s. So as I understand it, the Taliban are the good guys and they're on our side, and we're supposed to support them
anti-Soviet
in their fight against the Soviet Union.
Army on the road to peace, absolutely.
That's right.
But also...
Fantastic.
Nathan, where can the people find you?
Well, I produce this show. I produce Trash Future, Hell of a Way to Die, Line Slip by Donkeys, and maybe more projects down the line. Who even knows? But if you want to hear me talk about the military and veteran stuff from a leftist perspective, then you listen to Hell of a Way to Die. And if you like podcasts about what happens if you come in space, listen to Trash Future. And if you want to hear my friend Joe Kasabian talk about military defeats and blunders from what you might describe as a left-wing anarchist perspective, then listen to Lions Led by Donkeys. Emphatically not led by donkeys, the British centrist organization, although people constantly at him on Twitter thinking that that's what it is. And then, everything else, just follow me on Twitter at in these
I'm
just a guy. I'm just a random guy. I'm just a small boy. I'm a birthday boy.
He's just a birthday boy.
You should follow Nate on Twitter because Nate is one of the most devastating Twitter samurais there is. Do not cross Nate on Twitter because he will fucking annihilate you.
That's such a beautiful way with words.
Thank you. You're very kind. I was going to ask that since I've been looking forward to this for a while, if we could close out this episode on one of my favorite bits, which is, can we just do the birthday boy bit and close it out as in, I'm just a little boy.
You would kiss me. I'm just a little birthday bond.
I'm a boy. I'm a
birthday
small
bond. I'm just a little bond. It's my birthday.
Just watching more. You wouldn't hit like a birthday boy.
Thank you.
I'm still furious about that Scum Spectrum score, but there you go. I suppose we see him out at the best of times. Thank you for listening to another episode of Kill James Bond. Tune in 2 weeks' time for The Living Daylights, our first appearance of the prodigal Bond son that is Timothy Dalton. And I've watched the movie, and I've got to be honest with you, I don't like it. So, tune in! But if that is simply too long for you to wait, you could head on down to patreon.com/KillJamesBond and sign up to listen to, at this point, 14 bonus episodes. That's 14 hours minimum of content for you right now for just a dang $5. Insane. The next bonus episode will be our third listener Q&A. But speaking of our beautiful patrons, we would be nothing without our £15 and above patrons, and they are Paint McCalla, Jack Holmes, George Rohack, Holiday, Amanda Rogda, Sol, British Pterodactyl, Thomas Oberhart, Nikki, Mira Raymond, Carolyn Tankersley, Benno Rice, Amber DeGrazia, Jay Martindale, Jack Bushell, Pete Snorrison, Kentucky Fried Commie, Mothman, Field Commissar Jen, Big Titty Goth Girl, Larrykins, Trip, Top O, Timothy Pajoni, Elizabeth Cox, Zoe Shepard, Jonas Schwamberger, David Wickramarata, Raul Leal, Richard Drum, James Knappman, Robbie Morgan, Josh Simmons, Kinyu92, Alfredo, and Millie. It's a pretty healthy Patreon, I'll be honest. Although, to be fair, have you seen the end of Abby's videos where it lists all of her fucking patrons? It's just like 8 minutes long per time. Regardless, this has been Kill James Bond, starring Devon and 2 others. Our podcast art is by Maddie Lubchansky. Oh, this one's unusable. And yet I won't be recording a second. Our podcast art is by Maddie Lubchansky. Our website is by Tom Allen. And our producer and guest is Nate Bethay. See ya.